If Donald Trump continues to play political hardball, his tariffs are going to cause prices to skyrocket. If Trump actually enacts these tariffs, maybe we'll finally bring parts production back to America. That'd be good for the economy and good for us as car builders. I'm so tired and frustrated with how many times I've had to deal with imported aftermarket parts issues that could have been prevented with better quality control. Let's get into it. Everybody knows parts made in America are the most durable, best quality parts you're going to get. When you outsource stuff from overseas, China, Taiwan, wherever it might be, they're just not the same level of quality, they're not nearly as durable, and they're not going to last as long. One of the biggest issues that you see with aftermarket parts, especially things that are imported, is that they're not subject to the same stringent quality control standards that we are used to here in the United States and a few other countries. When I'm dealing with things like suspension, ball joints, brakes, other actual mechanical safety related parts, I want to know that my stuff is quality. I don't want to rely on some cheap part that was made overseas that might snap. I've heard horror stories of people breaking ball joints on cheap control arms. Break a ball joint, you might crash. That's not good. Hurts your car, hurts yourself. It's not worth it. So like I said, you get what you pay for. Try to get something that gives you peace of mind. To me, peace of mind is worth the extra money. As a rule, I try to stay away from imported aftermarket parts on cars that I'm building, and I bet you do too. Although they're affordable, we often know that they've been outsourced and they've been made at a cheaper cost, which probably makes them lower quality, not as strong. The problem with the low price is it often comes at the cost of quality, and we want quality parts. It's not that you can't get good quality aftermarket parts, it's just that when you import things from overseas, a lot of the times you get a variation in the product qualities from different manufacturers, different production facilities, and the like. One of the biggest problems I see has to do with the metal that they use on a lot of the aftermarket parts. When we do bolts and hardware at our shop, we try to buy from a known local manufacturer like Gardner Westcott or Granger or Fastenal. When you buy like bolts offline or you get them from out of the country, if that's where their original origin is from, the metal is not as good. It's got a lot more impurities in it and it doesn't have the same tensile strength. So what happens is you can snap a bolt, strip the threads a lot easier than you would with a quality bolt. Another thing to keep in mind is wire quality. When we talk about metal, these have a lot less strands per inch. They're thinner gauge oftentimes, even though they're advertised as the same, and they have inferior insulation, making them not nearly as good as a domestically made wire. Additionally, so many of the aftermarket parts are just thinner metal and they're not cast very perfectly. Look at this hood. See how the end of the hood already has a dent? It's a brand new hood. It's sure better than nothing, but it's flimsy. It's not a great representation of an original, and it's just cheap. When you run aftermarket fenders, hoods, and any body panels, the fit is never quite as good as it was, and don't underestimate how much time you're going to have to spend to work all of the edges and the gaps. For example, like when I'm doing a 67, 8, 9 Camaro, the hood is a square. It's supposed to fit in there perfectly, right? Sometimes I notice that I get like a trapezoid shaped hood and it does not fit in the square. Additionally, I have to modify the fenders to get them to fit nice. Because of this, so often we prefer to get an original panel and work it. No matter how much effort it's going to take, it's probably better than an aftermarket part. Although many of these aftermarket parts are a great alternative, they sure are better than nothing. They're just not at the level of what should go on a really nice classic car. Some of the reasons that we have problems with this is that we're taking old dies. For example, this Camaro, if they made a fender, a lot of the times they made a fender off of an old one, and so it's not quite exactly the same. Also, if they made a good widget, then the machine that they use, they just stamp them out left and right. So that machine starts to wear out because the fender's not as thick and strong as it used to be, and the tool that makes the fender isn't as strong as it used to be. So it wears out faster, which results in, instead of crisp corners, you get rounded bends, and you start to lose the precision that you get on a quality aftermarket part. The other thing you see is a lot of knockoff parts, where somebody's taking a part, waiting for the patent to expire and then making a part just like it, or trying to beat you to market. So they'll go to like SEMA or PRI and see the newest parts that are available, and people will take pictures of them and try to re-engineer that part and get to market first, or get to market cheaper, get to market faster, whatever it might be. When you get knockoff parts, they're just not quite the same. It's a big problem in the automotive industry because we're losing the protection of our intellectual property, and people that are designing these parts should be designing them properly for fit, finish, and durability. Another thing you see with producing parts overseas is that it's literally lost in translation. I've had different things come back where I'm going to have 2 bolts here and 1 bolt off to this side, and then after it's been made, somebody transposed it and I've got 2 bolts here and 1 bolt here. They don't line up, right? Or a bolt's in the wrong place, or literally, when I say lost in translation, you talk to somebody on the phone, we have language barriers, cultural barriers. They didn't understand exactly what we wanted, and close is not always good enough. Another problem has to do with warranties, right? They know many of these parts aren't very good, so they don't really offer much in terms of warranty. So if anything breaks or goes wrong, you could be stuck holding the bag. Not all aftermarket parts are bad. In fact, so many of the parts that we use and rely on are extremely high quality. We see aftermarket parts from all kinds of different countries on all of our new cars, so why wouldn't they be good enough for our old cars? Just make sure you do your homework and learn a little bit about the manufacturer. Understand that price is a good indicator of quality. It doesn't necessarily mean the most expensive is the best, but I could almost promise you the cheapest is probably the worst. Also, a term we use around our shop, beware the high cost of the low price. You buy something cheap, save $100 on it, you spend $200 more paying somebody to fight putting it on, or worse off, you're going to fight it in your garage until you want to pull your hair out. With rising prices, it's no surprise that we go to aftermarket parts because they're more affordable. If we keep paying more for parts, are we going to even be able to afford to build these cars? They're getting so expensive nowadays. To that end, one of the main reasons we choose aftermarket parts and we go overseas for production is it's way more affordable. I'm in California, and certainly here in the United States, we have so many regulations, laws, and rules. They're going to make it much more difficult to do business here. As a result, it's more expensive to produce here. So we go overseas understanding that they can get it done for a hell of a lot less. In fact, to make a part like this here in the US will probably cost at least 4 times what it would cost to make in China. So even after we pay all the import fees, ship it to the US, get it from dock to warehouse, from warehouse to store, from store to consumer, it still winds up being cheaper. It used to be, like I said, that everything overseas was poor quality, or at least that was the notion. They're starting to debunk that myth anymore. You can actually get good quality parts built overseas, and that's why a lot of people go overseas, because they have good factories that they found that they can have produce a high quality, again, at a more affordable price. Labor's cheaper, engineering's cheaper, tooling is cheaper, the whole process costs less. Another reason we import so many parts is because they have the ability to help us get them to market quickly. Barriers to entry are reduced, and as costs go lower, we're able to have more and more products. There are so many diverse parts that have become available because we have these international markets. They actually promote competition, ingenuity, and differences in design. So the creativity that comes from all these different minds actually can result in a superior product. Some people also would argue that you can get better quality overseas because you have more specialized labor. Have you ever heard of a Swiss watch? I don't really know of too many American watches, right, that have all those fancy movements and precision. German cars are known for their engineering. So there are very talented people overseas that can really produce phenomenal products, and we're starting to find them. So yet another reason why we continue to import parts. Have you ever tried to have a part made for you here in the United States? If I want to have a part machined and built, it might take months to get something made because all of our factories are busy, our designers are on other projects, we're just up and running already and we're at max capacity. Overseas companies know this and they have a huge market and they want our business. So they help us design and they help us bring things to market so much faster. They have the tooling, the technology, and the willingness to get it done. They're hungry for our money. If you're like me, I prefer made in America, but you got to remember, even imported parts create jobs. We got to have salespeople, transportation and logistics company, engineers, people that are going to find the people that are going to make the products, advertising, marketing. Millions of jobs are made from overseas parts. Like it or not, we live in a world where automotive and non-automotive parts are globally sourced. Parts to build new GM, Ford, and Chrysler vehicles are actually often made overseas and then assembled here in the United States. We rely on parts from Japan, Pakistan, Taiwan, Mexico, Canada. There's just no way around it. Why are we so dependent? Manufacturing all our own parts here in America sounds like a good idea. In fact, something a politician could probably run on. But is it realistic? Probably not. I say no. The reality is most of us tend to think with our wallets. In fact, you can see that in the recent political change as we've shifted to a president that we think is going to right our economy. I haven't met too many people that want to pay more for everything, let alone more for anything. Unless Trump's tariffs and outsourcing get way more expensive, we're not going to change. Personally, I think we need to be less reliant on other countries for products, goods, and services. Let's bring manufacturing back to the U.S., improve quality, create jobs, protect ourselves from shipping and supply chain issues, and strengthen our own economy. If we're not willing to pay the price, we're going to pay the price. And special thanks out to Dean and the crew here at Tognati's for letting me use their retail store to do my video.